Coming up on today's wrestling news, a top AEW star is out until 2025.
An ex-WWE champion's AEW contract is set to expire.
Cody Rhodes teases getting a new manager and reflects on his time in AEW.
And stars pay tribute to the late John Bad Bones Klinger. I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news.
Yes, we start with an injury update, I suppose. We were aware that Eddie Kingston was already suffering from the knee injury sustained when he worked in New Japan against Gabe Kidd. Of course, that violent sort of suplex onto the table or the guardrail was all grim stuff. It's ruled him out of Double or Nothing, but unfortunately it's ruled him out of 2024. Jeez. Full stop. This is according to PW Insider. Anyway, they said they spoke with Kingston to get an update on the injuries. He was said to have suffered tears to his ACL and meniscus that will require surgery. He'd hoped to be back for AEW All in London, of course, in Wembley Stadium, where he featured last year in the Stadium Stampede. But the new timeline from surgery recovery is likely to be 9 months, which, if that stands to be correct, will keep him out till January 2025. The quote PW Insider got from Kingston was, "This is part of the game, injuries happen, I will be back." So the kind of pragmatism and realism you would expect from Eddie Kingston, but that's rough. 2025, that's rough.
That's such a shame, like you say. I was really looking forward to seeing him All In potentially, and he was obviously such a great pick to be a member of Team AEW for Double or Nothing. Obviously knew he wasn't going to be taking part in that. I always hate these like ACL, MCL, meniscus injuries because they are also unpredictable in terms of their recovery. You're just hoping that the right things reattach, I suppose. And it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's so unfortunate. Like, he was so great in the Continental Classic and stuff, and that presumably would rule him out of the next one, potentially.
I guess so, that's true, he wouldn't be able to. I know, like, Okada would technically take the crown in, but he maybe wanted to be defending it to win it.
Story of him being in it for the second year.
Yeah, timelines can change and wrestlers can sometimes work, so who knows, I guess, but like, taking the man at his word at least, very, very sad and disappointing news for Eddie Kingston and fans. Get well soon, Eddie.
Indeed.
I hope the recovery goes well.
Sticking with AEW though, an ex-WWE champion who works there, their contract is set to expire. I'm talking of Mark Henry, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, coming through with this one. Obviously Mark Henry signed with AEW back in 2021, debuting at Double or Nothing, of course. He's worked as an analyst, a coach, a scout, and a mentor during his time on there. But we all know him mostly for, well, looks like we've had enough talk. It's time for the main event.
Yeah.
It was class that on Rampage. I don't know if he still does it. I don't watch Rampage. Who does? But he has always teased, of course, at one more match. No word on whether that ever is going to happen again. He said he doesn't know what it would take to make it happen. He hasn't wrestled since the greatest Royal Rumble in 2018. Not had a singles match since February of 2017. Yeah, so he's mainly like an interviewer, a personality on AEW. Does the Busted Open stuff as well. I don't know whether this is a case of him just sort of winding down and reducing his commitments, or maybe AEW. I don't know whether they want him. I think he's a great mind to have around, regardless of whether or not you're going to use him on screen.
Seems that way, doesn't it? I always think of Mark Henry in terms of his backstage presence when you see like a little bit of conversation. Oh, what's Mark Henry exactly doing there? I always think of like CM Punk name checking him when he was having his big old rant, for better and worse, about how there's people backstage you can go to.
Yeah.
And he named like Mark Henry as one of them, which leads you to think as well, he's got a lot of friends in wrestling if he wants to stay directly in wrestling.
Yeah.
You mentioned he kind of works on Busted Open. Now we're going to bring up something from an interview he's conducted in the next story. So it's not like he hasn't got interests on the peripheries or in the media space, but, he's been with AEW now, what was that, 3 years? 4 years maybe? Like
3 years.
Like a long time, and, wrestlers can recover and find that space for that one match as well. Coming up 6 years since that last time he took a bump. And even that was in the Greatest Royal Rumble, so he might feel like he wants a send-off. You never know what wrestlers want from the end of their careers, do you? So
it's a bit like No BS Paul White.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in the same boat of like, okay, you brought him in as a personality, but you always wonder if he's going to put that singlet on one more time.
And you can never say never. It's wrestling, isn't it?
It's literally one of my favourite moments of wrestling, his fake retirement. I go back and watch it every sort of 6 months.
Like, you should.
Why didn't they have him beat Cena?
This is it. You've made me realise that if nothing else, he's got a line in salmon jackets for the rest of his career, hasn't he? Just get them mass produced and take them to WrestleCon. Just buy your own.
Got a lot left in the tank. Kill him, Mark.
We'll stick with Mark Henry because he had Cody Rhodes on Busted Open Radio.
That he did.
Obviously friends and ex-colleagues for the time being, at least. Cody offered some thoughts on AEW, which we'll get to in a second, but he also spoke about how he missed having a manager and teased the prospect of maybe having one again in WWE. This was in reference to the segment from last week's SmackDown with Logan Paul, where he kind of looked around and saw that Logan was surrounded by all these people. And he said it was great to have Arn Anderson over his shoulder from time to time to remind him just who the hell he was. And, to stay locked
It's not like Logan Paul surrounded himself with a lot of yes men in that segment.
So he teased maybe getting a manager in the future without naming names. Of course, there is one obvious example that springs to mind in his wife, Brandy Rhodes, who got that absolutely goddamn huge pep when she returned at WrestleMania. But, well, what remains to be on that one is obviously whether or not, WWE, traditionally not really necessarily a manager-focused company.
Certainly not for a babyface.
No, would honour Cody's wishes. But other than that as well, he also spoke in more detail about AEW. We've heard little snatches in the past about AEW, most recently when he kind of felt compelled to say something in response to CM Punk's comments. But he did the same with Mark Henry here, and it was all just quite nice. He said, I'll always have an eye on it. It's not just something you can abandon in your mind in a sense of, oh, hey, me, Matt, Nick, Kenny, Tony, Brandy, Bernie, Chris, Dana, all started this thing. I'll always have an eye on it. I can't pretend it's not there. I have a lot of great memories. More than anything, he said, sometimes things are just a season in your life. That was a season in my life, and it was a really great season. I wouldn't read too much into that in terms of there not being a second season down the line. Work is going to work. Cody's always in front of the eight ball, isn't he? He's going to
end up there eventually. It might be a decade from now, but he will eventually go back.
This is it. But yeah, so some interesting comments from Cody, not least as he is kind of still doing this while being WWE's top guy. You sense that he's like speaking honestly and frankly, and in that top spot sometimes wrestlers feel a bit more gagged as to what they can really say and do in these positions. So I think it's interesting. Like now Cody, especially in light of what we're going to find out about the build to WrestleMania with that documentary, him saying that he found out about the potential of Rock and Roman on Rumble Day, it's like, that man's sitting with a lot of insight.
I've got a quick word on that because, like you say, we've sort of touched on this season comment about AEW. The manager thing doesn't work as a babyface, but only eventually, and it's going to be awesome when he starts turning on the fans.
Yeah.
Whether he gets a manager, whether he gets Paul Heyman as a manager, Jesus, that'd be amazing to see.
Mr. Heyman, he calls him, doesn't he?
What do you think regarding that? Because I saw some tweets the other day about that, about like, Cody kind of went off script. He was apparently meant to point at Seth, but he pointed at Roman. Do you believe that?
I don't believe that.
No.
I think that is a...
Why was there a camera in Roman's, cut into Roman's reaction and stuff?
I don't believe that, right? But Cody getting told that and having the gumption and the guts. As he pointed out, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble, so I've got to go out there and look like a man wanting to win the Royal Rumble, right? I love that he was smart enough to realise that what was happening here was that at very, very worst, he was like a pawn being played in somebody else's game. So like the best thing he can do is make himself look like a king rather than a pawn, look like a queen rather than a pawn. Triple H and The Rock were ultimately at the centre of a power struggle, and Triple H had his back, but it's like, well, how much can I really do? So I'm glad Cody believed in his head, this is all mine, and it came off from.
There are so many what if moments in wrestling history. And it's so nice to have the good version of a what if in WWE for once. Like that sliding doors moment. And yeah, I think it's the greatest pivot in wrestling history. I genuinely believe that.
Well, yeah.
It's a pivot they enforce themselves to do. But, I mean, I would have loved to build to just another Cody Roman match. But it's my favourite thing.
I think like there.
It's my favourite thing. The whole weekend was my happy. Up until next year.
You've summed it up, because when you say greatest pivot, it's because too often WWE especially doesn't pivot.
Yeah.
So we talk about the what ifs more than we talk about the pivots.
Try and claim WrestleMania 30 was a pivot. It wasn't. They just knew they'd really screwed up.
Yeah, the network documentary on Bryan was just one big lie of from SummerSlam we had you right where we wanted you. They're not going to, well, presumably they're not going to tell that story on this WrestleMania one if it ever gets released.
Let the footage go, Dwayne, please. Right, let's move on to our final story. Some sad news to bring you today. Bad Bones, a star of multiple promotions, someone who I knew from our time in WCPW. Unfortunately, the news has come through that Bad Bones has passed away. At the age of 40, he was a staple of European wrestling. Debuted in 2004, held multiple championships. He worked with WXW, obviously Progress, as I mentioned, WCPW, TNA, The news of his passing was first shared by WXW on social media. It reads as follows, with translation, of course. We say goodbye to Bad Bones John Klinger. John Klinger was one of the defining wrestlers at WXW for over a decade. He won all of the major titles at WXW and won both 16 karat gold and shortcut to the top. In his almost 450 matches in the WXW ring, he always worked hard and did his best to excite his fans. At just 40 years old, John died far too early, shortly before his planned retirement. Yeah, I'd sort of catch up on what he was doing occasionally on social media, and I just saw a photo that Miller posted of Bad Bones this morning, and I assumed it was just an update on his retirement, and then it was this. It just really hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah. Just to finish off the WXW post, we wish his family and friends strength in this difficult time. TNA also paid respects to the star, describing him as an incredible wrestler and an even better person. He was a gut check winner, of course. He appeared on the TNA UK tours, part of their success in Germany. A variety of different, I'm not going to be able to list them all, but lots of WWE and AEW stars paid tribute to him. SmackDown GM Nick Aldis said, so many times I arrived tired and weary in a foreign land, and Bad Bones was a friendly face that I was relieved to see. Whatever weird, wacky adventure awaits, we're here together. That's a unique bond that only brothers and sisters in our wrestling fraternity understand. A great guy, gone too soon. My heart goes out to his family and loved ones. R.I.P. brother. Corey Graves, WWE commentator, said he was a gem of a human. And Christopher Daniels in AEW said, rest in peace, Bad Bones, John Klinger. I'm glad we got the chance to share the ring, good sir. My sincere condolences to his family. And yeah, I should mention, Simon Miller paid a glowing tribute to him about how he instilled confidence in Miller when he had a bit of a crisis early on in his wrestling career. And go and check out the tweet that Miller mentions him in, because he gives this excellent quote that I'm going to butcher if I try and remember it now, Miller carries with him to this day. And on a personal note, yeah, he was such a great character to be around in WCPW. It was a whirlwind thing for me, but he was so friendly and like reliable and enjoyable to watch in the ring, and he was someone I'd always kept tabs on after obviously WCPW was no longer a thing, and someone I always anticipated getting that bigger spotlight, if I'm perfectly honest, because he's got such he had such a incredible look. Devastating news, and we give our sincerest condolences to his friends and family.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Miller's tribute he's paid. I remember distinctly being in the office when I think it was the WCPW World Cup.
Yes.
And Phil Chambers was coming in talking about like some of the highs and that, and I remember him mentioning Bad Bones by name. He was a wrestler then I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
It was very much like not only did you have to see him wrestle, but here's these great stories of what a great guy he was to be around and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, just our condolences from all of us here at What Culture 40. It's really sad and tragic news.
Yeah, it's gone far too soon. R.I.P. John Klinger. Right, let's try and move on from that and get to your Twitter questions at What Culture WWE on X. Of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Samsock. It's less a question, I suppose, more of a statement. Who says, "Hear me out. Queen Nia Jax with a British accent."
I can't see a way that this isn't the biggest thing of your 2024, and that includes the WrestleMania you just spoke of.
Yeah, I'll move on to the next thing.
This tweet feels engineered not just to get read out by you, but to get lived by you.
Queen Nia!
There it is.
Lyra Valkyrie's on a tear, though.
Step in time, Bailey.
But at the moment that 3 got counted last night, I'm like, they're not going to put Bianca Belair at the final.
No. Well, they could do, I suppose. They could do the working baby faces. No, it's not.
Have a beat both tag champs. Come on. Outsmarted Jade Cargill.
I think
clever booking, in my opinion.
I think the King and Queen regalia can be used or not used as per each character. It's case by case. And
like Jackson Gunther as well.
Gunther just treating the crown as a trophy and being like, I'm the general and now the king of this ring and I'll become champion. Great. Just earnestly believing she's a queen. Nia Jax. Also great.
Using the crown as a weapon.
Yeah, scepter. That sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm actually with you on this one at this point. I think I've finally hopped aboard the Queen Nia Express.
Yeah. On board, choo-choo, next stop.
Lyra doesn't need...
Queen of the Ring.
Shouldn't need a crown, she's got wings.
Yeah.
It's a hat on a hat. If she wins the... it's a hat on a bird. It's a crown on a bird.
Eric Vasquez gives us our second question today. Great first name. Thank you, Eric, for your question. We were talking yesterday on the SmackDown review, what Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, if you want to hear about that, about Mello potentially teaming up with the Bloodline in some sort of big multi-man match after all the babyfaces go, we've had enough of this Bloodline 2.0. You're not getting away with what the Bloodline 1.0 used to get away with, and that's how Randy Orton qualifies for the final of King of the Ring on Friday, we assume. Eric, little tweak. Mello, not an honorary Oos, but a temporary Tonga.
Yet again, I'm going to say, Eric, I think you know what you're doing here. I think you're tweeting that in order to get Wilborn's attention, and it has, unsurprisingly, worked a charm.
Yeah.
I suppose a temporary Tonga, a stand in Sokoa, perhaps.
Yeah. I like the fact they just go, you're at Bell End, we're all Bell Ends. Do you want to be mates for a bit?
There's like nobody's quite settled on this new bloodline.
Tamatonga sounds like Joe Pesci in Home Alone. Do you want to get involved?
So what about, hang on, if that wouldn't quite work. So you'd have like Tamatonga, Mello, and Tongaloa as the new recruits, and like Solo just batters Paul Heyman. It's all right. I've got 3 wise men. Just time for Christmas.
Love that. Love that.
Thank you, Eric.
Speaking of things to do to get your question asked, Mark Solid has sent us a question. Thank you as always for your question, Mark. But also with a clip of him too sweeting his cat. So,
right. A, cats better than dogs. B, if you can too sweet your pet, you've got more chance of getting my interest.
Yes.
Like, or if your pet's like doing a crotch chop. If your dog does a better crotch chop than Mike Tyson,
not hard.
Send it in. Let us know. Then I'll put you over.
So Mark says, morning Top G's. Thoughts on what wrestlers should have a custom belt and what they should look like? Potential box time, so we could...
all right.
We haven't got the WWE one yet. We're still working on a financial settlement for that. I'd have Tony D making an Italian title.
This feels very well-born pill, this entire question and answer section.
Dad's back tomorrow. I'm having a last bit of fun.
I was, before we go to the AEW box, I saw a picture today, and I forgot that the belt was still designed the way it was. I think a new Intercontinental title is needed, and while he's got it, why not give Sami Zayn a custom strap? Like, he's got a lot of things that would lend themselves quite nicely to a strap. Like, you've got the plaid, or that sort of, when he used to have all the flags of all the countries he's worked in on his gear.
Yeah.
Like, that on an Intercontinental title now would look spot on, because it's an Intercontinental title.
What do you think is going to come out first, the WrestleMania 40 documentary or Sami Zayn's conspiracy video?
Well, some would argue they're pretty much the same thing, the way that we're seeing the comments from Brian and Dwayne lately. That conspiracy theory. That
was so good. Why didn't they release that?
The conspiracy theory, which, if I'm not mistaken, Sami was so annoyed that he wasn't getting people to listen to him about his video. Who did he go to for help? Roman Reigns. And that was
the beginning.
How it started, yeah.
And then they're eating popcorn, and then he's like, it's a big popcorn.
Do you know what I want as well? Loads of people have messaged, have added me in this, and I love getting to, sort of have Bret Hart interactions. That Bret Hart belt is absolutely revolting. I love it. But it's, disgusting. It's got, the, what are the epaulets from his jacket, hanging off the side. It's, it's just, Bret Hart's world title is the actual best looking title ever. That's the Bret belt. But it's made me think, I want a disgusting Cody one. It can look like the side of the Lex Express. It can have American Nightmare neck tattoos wherever a
lead that attaches so he can wear it and walk fair at the same time.
Love that. You can have a wrist version of it, so then when he's doing the that, you can see it. That's also, he rips the belt off. It's got a microphone on the end for when he's asking people,
"What do you got? What to talk about?"
Don't
know why he's D'Lo Bryan when I do that.
No, every hideous bit of Cody iconography.
Who in AEW should have a custom belt?
If I pull a name, do you want to come up with how they customise it?
Good luck pulling someone who hasn't already got a belt in AEW, by the way.
Good. Oh, all right, okay. Adam Cole.
Crutch. Please get better soon. I miss him in the ring. I miss him on telly. I get why he's not there. I like a belt that has an attachment that when he does that also does it with him.
Yes.
Or sets off fireworks when he does that.
Like Jeff Jarrett's pyro guitar.
Yeah. Or has an extendable, what is it? Is it a Grand Day Out? Wallace and Gromit, where they go to the moon?
Yes.
And the little fridge thing that tries to kill them.
That'd get him.
The arms that come out, one goes like that, boom.
That would get him back in the ring sooner if he had the wrong trousers.
I Anthony Bowens. There you go.
Oh, yeah, done that. Pink scissoring belt. It was,
Yeah.
it was class, it was goated, and I actually even like them now that Bullet Club Gold have got them because Jay White hangs them off that bat.
Why
Looks pretty
have
cool.
you got why have you got so many belts?
You hate that, don't you?
I've been through the mill with this whole interim title bollocks, and now why have you got three lots of trios belts, right?
You're definitely fine with this, aren't you?
Anyway, the correct answer is, of course, Logan Paul's Prime belt, which is all the colours of Prime and what have you.
Yeah.
Maybe some like clips so you can put the bottles on it.
Yes.
But also, and you may have experienced this if you've been to a music festival or whatever, there's a little hidden compartment in the belt itself that you can pour Prime into and use it as a flask.
straws,
You know, like when people be like, oh, don't mind me, I'm just pregnant with wine, that is. Let's go!
That footage of somebody at the
Yes,
Ascot,
the race.
drinking out of the binoculars.
What's
That's
that?
goated. You've nailed that.
Absolutely incredible work. Anyway, let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, and while you're at it, why not check out this video right here, baby?